to another edition of Center Stage Sweets. Today we're going to be talking about the musical Company and making some absolutely delicious chocolate peanut butter cupcakes. For those of you who aren't familiar with Company, it was written by Stephen Sondheim and is one of his most beloved musicals. Company tells the story of Bobby, and it opens on his 35th birthday, and Bobby is surrounded by all of his married friends and a few of his girlfriends, and it's not a linear story, which is one of the things that makes it kind of interesting. It is about Bobby's troubles and struggles with understanding love, commitment, marriage, relationships, and ultimately what it means to be alive, and that loving someone in whatever form that is what ultimately makes someone alive. And our inspiration today comes from a song that happens early on in Act 1 called Sorry Grateful. Bobby's had dinner with two of his married friends, and afterwards he's talking with the husband and says, "You ever sorry you got married?" To which he responds with a song. He says, "You're always sorry, you're always grateful." And so I decided to kind of parlay that into a dessert that I would think, I would be really sorry if I saw the calorie count on this, but it's so delicious that I'm so grateful that I ate it. And I think we've done just that here. So let's get started. In our bowl here, we have 1 cup of granulated sugar, and to that we are going to add 3/4 of a cup of vegetable oil, 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and we're gonna give that a quick mix. Just enough to get everything incorporated. It won't take more than a few seconds. And then we're gonna add in 2 eggs, and we're gonna add them in one at a time. Before Broadway closed down thanks to COVID, there was a production of Company that came for the first time. Bobby was being played by a woman. I can't wait to see it. I hope that it survives through the shutdown because I think it's absolutely wonderful. It's one of those few roles that I think really can be played by either gender and the story still works. So I'm so glad to see that somebody did that with a revival, and I'm hoping that it comes back so that I get the chance to see it. So now we're gonna add in our dry ingredients, which I have pre-mixed together in this other bowl here. 1 3/4 cups of cake flour, 3/4 of a cup of dark cocoa powder, and I went really dark with this one. I love dark chocolate. If you're not a dark chocolate person, you can absolutely use regular cocoa powder too. There's also 1 3/4 teaspoons of baking powder in here and a teaspoon of kosher salt. So we're gonna add that in. We're gonna alternate our dry ingredients with our wet, and our wet is 1.5 cups of milk. I'm using almond milk. Again, that's just because I happen to be lactose intolerant. You can use any kind of milk or milk substitute that you like. It should work perfectly fine. And we're gonna add them in alternating dry, wet, dry, wet, dry. So let's get started. Just about 1/3 of that dry mixture. And then once that gets incorporated nicely, we're gonna add in about half of our liquid. And you'll see this batter does end up, when it's finished, being a little on the liquidy side, and that's okay. That is what you want. And we're gonna add in the next part. Okay, so now that we are mostly mixed through, I want to take a spatula and just kind of scrape down the sides of the pan just to make sure that anything that's kind of stuck does get worked in. And then we'll give it one last mix on the mixer, and then we'll start putting them in our cupcake tins. You just give the beaters a little wipe down here with the spatula. It helps make sure you get all of that batter back in before you start mixing up again. to get some of that batter off. And we are ready to start putting these into our cupcake tins. So,
Cut.
We're gonna now fill up our cupcake tins. I have lined 2 trays of cupcake tins with these little cute rose gold cupcake liners. There's no reason for the show for that. That's my own personal choice, simply because the show talks a lot about marriage and relationships. My own engagement ring happens to be rose gold, so that's the only reason for it. You can put them in whatever color your heart desires. They'll be just great. So we're gonna take a scoop, about like, I call it the meatball size scoop, or like golf ball size. You wanna get about 1 good level scoop of that. And it is a little messy, so you may also prefer, if you have a bowl like this with a spout on it, just to tip and pour in. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna drop 1 scoop into each one of our cupcake tins to start with. Now that our cupcake tins have their first scoop of our chocolate batter in, we're gonna melt some peanut butter to go in the middle. So the cupcake itself is kind of gonna feel like a peanut butter cup, so like a layer of chocolate, layer of peanut butter, and then we're gonna put another layer of chocolate on top of it after that. So like I said, we have about a cup of peanut butter here. We're gonna put it in the microwave. To melt it, I would suggest doing it for like 30 seconds on high, give it a stir, see the consistency, and keep doing it in 30-second intervals. You want it completely melted. Now, it's gonna reconstitute when it bakes in the oven because we're not adding any oil to this or liquid to help keep it in a liquid state. And that's okay, we want that to happen, but it's easier to spread it and mix it into the cupcakes if it's been melted first before it goes in. So I'm gonna pop this in the microwave. Now that our peanut butter is melted, we're just gonna add it in to all of our cupcake tins. So I've got like a little mini spatula here. You could take a spoon, whatever you've got handy. We're just gonna take enough that we can just kind of make a little layer of peanut, a very thin, but still a layer of peanut butter in the middle of it.
6, take 2.
And so you just keep going through each cupcake again, just a nice thin layer, and you see how much easier it is to put that in if it was, now that it's melted. If it was solid, it'd be a lot messier, a lot more complicated. So I highly suggest melting the peanut butter first. All of our cupcake tins now have their layer of peanut butter in them, so now we're gonna top them off with another scoop per cupcake of the chocolate batter. You're gonna wanna fill it about 1/3 of the way with the first drop of chocolate, then put in the peanut butter, and then the second should come up about 2/3 of the way. Our cupcake tins are now filled. We're gonna put this tray in the oven. It goes in a preheated 355-degree oven for about 15 to 18 minutes. Our cupcakes have come out of the oven. We poked them with a toothpick. They came out clean. If they do come out with a little batter on them, just add a couple more minutes onto the timer. Just do it in small increments so that they don't overcook. Remember, you can always continue to cook, but you can't uncook. We're gonna let them sit here in the tin for about 2 to 3 minutes before we transfer them onto our wire cooling racks to cool completely, and then we'll get frosting. Our cupcakes are completely cooled, so now we can begin the topping. Before we put frosting on it, we're gonna put something a little special in between the cupcake and the frosting. We're gonna put a little chocolate hazelnut spread. I personally love Nutella, but whatever your favorite is, go for it. We're gonna take, you're not gonna measure it, but you're gonna take about a teaspoon per cupcake and just spread it on top. So let's get started. And I do a generous teaspoon. And the easiest way to do it is plop it in the middle and then just kind of spin the cupcake around in your hand and use the knife to just kind of smooth it out. And if it doesn't look perfect, that's fine because we're gonna put frosting on top of it. Many of the shows we've talked about so far on Center Stage Sweets have been shows that I have either personally been involved in or seen. I've actually never been in a production of company. I did, however, in high school, I took a class called Literature of Musical Theater, and my teacher for the class gave me as my special assignment, or one of my 2, company as a play to be writing papers on, and that's when I first fell in love with it. But these cupcakes in particular were kind of the brainchild of my dear friend Mary. She loves Company. It is her favorite show. She always says that no matter how old she gets, she will always be an Amy. For those that don't know, Amy is one of the younger of his married friends, and she actually goes and gets married during the show. And she has this great number that goes a million miles a minute called Getting Married Today, which she, has a day of cold feet panic. It's absolutely hilarious. But in my life, I kind of think of Mary as the Joanne to my Bobby. She was that person that was always there for me, giving me the great advice I always needed to hear, and usually over a drink. And she's just absolutely wonderful. And she was the one that suggested to me that we should do our company concept for a dessert should be based on the Sorry Grateful concept. And so these are thanks to Mary. All right, let's talk frosting. So these cupcakes are already pretty decadent with the chocolate and the peanut butter in the cupcakes and the Nutella on top, but we're gonna take it an extra level up because we said we wanted to make these as decadent and caloric as possible. So we are gonna do 2 buttercreams in one. We're going to do a peanut butter buttercream and a chocolate buttercream, and then we are gonna combine them so it has a swirl effect when we frost them. So we're gonna start now with the peanut butter buttercream. And to start, I have 2 1/4 cups of powdered sugar and 6 tablespoons of room temperature butter. And we're gonna blend those together right now. As you can see, it doesn't look anything like frosting yet. So we're also gonna add in some milk. We're gonna do it a tablespoon at a time, just because at a certain point, again, you can't take it out, you can always add in, and this will just help it start to come together. That looks good. To do our chocolate buttercream, we're gonna start with the same base as the peanut butter. So again, 6 tablespoons of room temperature butter and 2 1/4 cups of powdered sugar. And we're gonna mix those together now. Now that our butter and confectioner's sugar are blended together, we are gonna add in 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, same as we did with the peanut butter. And now to make it chocolate, I have melted over a double boiler 2 ounces of 60% cocoa chocolate. You could always use unsweetened baking chocolate if you have that as well. If you don't have the ability to create a double boiler, you can also put it in the microwave. I would do it at 10-second intervals, stirring in between, because you don't want to scorch the chocolate, and that's really easy to do in the microwave. I'm just gonna scrape all the chocolate out, and then we're gonna mix this together. Like the peanut butter buttercream, we're gonna start adding in some milk, about a tablespoon at a time. Now that both of our buttercreams are prepared, I am putting 2 little plastic bags into water glasses. It just helps hold them up. I mean, if you have somebody that can help you hold the bags, that's great. But if you're cooking by yourself, this is a really great little trick. I'm just gonna fold the outside of it over. It helps with the mess later, trust me. And then wanna make sure that one corner fits down into that bowl, or into that glass rather. So I've got 2 of them set up. One will have the peanut butter and one will have the chocolate. So let's start with the peanut butter. And we're just gonna scoop it in. And it'll take a second because it's thick. Nope, so it. And if you can't fit it all in the bag at once, that's fine. You can always go back and refill. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these two filled bags with the peanut butter and with the chocolate, and then we're gonna combine them into our big pastry bag to make a kind of swirled frosting. So there's still a little bit of peanut butter, but I don't wanna push the bag. So we'll always, as we need to, go back and add more. We're gonna do the same with the chocolate now. So from here, you're gonna fold it up, and you wanna give it a little twist, and then we're just gonna snip. We're gonna snip the corner of the bag. So there's just like a tiny little opening. Just set it down gently so you don't squeeze out any of the frosting while you do that with the peanut butter as well. We have our main pastry bag. I've already filled it with a nice narrow star tip. I've snipped the end of the bag, pushed the tip out to the top so it's ready to go. And we're gonna take our peanut butter and our chocolate. This is a little complicated. If you have a friend that can help you, it's always a good idea to grab them at this point. But if not, you're just gonna squeeze with both hands at the same time and just squeeze that frosting in. And just try to be conscious that you're getting the same amount in at the same time. Whoops. And it's all going the same place in the end. And then we're just gonna close this off, twist it, and start piping. When it comes to piping, sometimes my skills are not the greatest. So like I said, when we made our Prosecco cupcakes, I always like to start with one that's a little funky looking first. So if I screw up, that's the one I eat as a tester. So like this guy back here, like his wrapper's a little funky, so we're gonna start with him. We're gonna start piping from the outside. But you can see how the chocolate and the peanut butter kind of swirl together. And as you get going, it'll swirl a little bit better and each one will get prettier and prettier, I promise. Our cupcakes are now all frosted and ready to be served. I promise you, you will absolutely love them. They are so decadent. I can't wait. I have one left over that I've kept for myself here. So let's see if they live up to that sorry, grateful name. So excited. They do. They are so good. They are worth every single regrettable calorie. You definitely need a glass of milk to wash them down or something, but they are delicious. There's that beautiful little line of peanut butter right in the middle. The Nutella is just kind of like a nice little accent to add to it. They're perfect. I mean, I love chocolate and peanut butter, but they're perfect. I hope you make them when you get a chance at home. If you do, send us your pictures, tag us on Instagram at Center Stage Sweets, and be sure to follow us. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're enjoying these videos, and see our blog with more information about the shows and the treats at centerstagesweets.com. We'll see you next time.